Coming up on today's episode.
Yeah, they are literally there to take your advice. And I would encourage people to listen and take in, the things that you can. Obviously, there are things that you're not going to want to change, and that is completely fine. But you need to keep some sort of open mind.
Dodgy advice and bad decisions can cost you big in real estate. We're here to make sure that doesn't happen. Welcome to the No BS Real Estate Podcast. I'm your host, Jo Agresta, and it's time to take control of your property journey together.
Hi, my name's Kelly. I'm from Witherspoon Property Buyers. I am based in Mackay in central Queensland. I'm here to be on the No BS Real Estate Podcast, and I'm so excited to have a chat with Jo about goals and briefing and everything that I do to help my clients be successful in buying property. And let's go.
Welcome back, everyone, to the No BS Real Estate Podcast, your listening how-to guide to the Aussie finance and real estate market. I'm your host, Jo Agresta. Now, if you've been doom scrolling listings at midnight or losing auctions or slowly developing a twitch every time you hear under offer, this episode's for you because joining me today is Kelly Witherspoon, founder of Witherspoon Property Buyers, based in beautiful Mackay in Queensland. And she's helping clients right across the region make confident, stress-free property decisions. Kelly's known for helping families, professionals and first-time buyers find calm in the chaos. She's the person clients call when property hunting turns into an emotional sport. And today we're unpacking how do you buy without the burnout. So Kelly, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Jo. Thanks for having me. I'm really excited to jump in.
Oh, me too. And you've flown all the way down here. You've got a conference today. You're doing a podcast this morning. Like, what a wild time.
It is crazy. And yeah, coming from up there, it's predicted 40. Come down here to rainy Melbourne.
I've got to ask, how did you even pack?
It was hard. It was very, in saying that, all of my winter clothes were packed away.
That's
so I had to dig all of those out. Yeah.
No, you couldn't have come at probably a worse weather time, but true to Melbourne, we have to stay to our stereotype. We can't just have visitors and not give you a rain parade. But I've been looking forward to this because when we caught up in the pre-podcast interview, what really stood out is you've got such a calm demeanour. And I think for buyer's agent, a lot of people brand real estate people as these, sharp-tongued, people that kind of spit poison in negotiations. And when I met you, you have this really calm kind of way of explaining things and a really reassuring tone. And I thought, far out, you'd be you're a great buyer's advocate because even your reviews and how you've conducted your business, it's a hard play to be in. People are stressed, emotional, especially because you're dealing with first time buyers, downsizes, upsizes.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Yeah, you're right. There's so much out there that's, it's really hard to take in. There's so much information to take in and then different people's opinions. And then you have, real estate agents and other professionals that make it even harder. Yeah.
Oh, it's tough. And I think, brings us to the first, place to start with, which is you. So tell us, how did you get into buyer's advocacy and what made you step out and start your own agency?
Yeah. So I guess how far do you want to go back?
Give us the spiel.
I was younger. My parents had an investment property and, every change of tenancy, I was out there digging up the garden. And so, I'd always been around that sort of thing. And then in my early 20s, I got a job as a property manager. So, I was a property manager for the better part of 10 years.
Wow.
And the thing that made me want to be a buyer's agent was I saw so many mum and dad investors struggling. And I'd always heard that, buying property is your way to wealth. But there were so many people that were struggling and I didn't know why. And that's where I started, my own investing journey and really researching, how some people are doing it to, have heard that. It was clearly a possibility, but I just wasn't seeing it.
It's so interesting because, when you think about investors, like you said, it's your way to wealth. It's the way, these guys must be loaded. And I think that's still the kind of brand that property investors have, right? Everyone thinks they're loaded. But the fact that you were in the seat where you're helping landlords manage their assets and you're seeing them struggle, that's such a different take to, I think, what everyone else assumes about them.
Yeah, 100%. And, you have so many different people coming at you as a landlord. And then you've got, all of the bills that people just don't even really consider. And it was really hard. I did that in regional New South Wales and it was a place where, capital growth wasn't huge. So people weren't even making money in that way, let alone cash flow as well. So yeah, it was a real eye opener for me.
And that's kind of what then sparked you to kind of go, okay, this buyer's advocacy stuff, like you can put your knowledge to, towards that, because I always say that that's a piece that's kind of missing from some advocates, who do the service. When you get to after the transactional settlement, it's kind of like, yeah, we help point, some advocates do the full service where they go through all the, property managers that you can choose from, et cetera. But a lot of them don't. They just kind of go, well, here's who I recommend. It's up to you, get the asset managed. And it's kind of like where the service falls down, because that's where you really need someone as well, right at the end. So is that part of what you now kind of do for your clients?
Yeah, 100%. Because like you said, it's what people forget about. It's, I'm going to buy the property, I'm going to make a lot of money, I'm going to have a big cash flow, but they don't think about what comes after you actually buy. And not having the right property manager in place can be absolutely huge in whether, like, how well the property is maintained and cared for by the tenant and the property manager.
Especially if you're buying interstate, that's something that you solely only have to rely on the property manager, because it's not like you're going to fly in and out every weekend to make sure the house is all right. You're going to trust whoever the professional is. And when you get that wrong, far out, it's a nightmare.
100%.
Like, I've heard stories that make my skin crawl, and I want to go into a corner and go, maybe I won't ever invest again because it's too scary to buy interstate. But, it kind of brings me to yourself. Like, who are you mostly helping these days now? So is it like those first home buyers, the families, or the investors? Like, what's the kind of like sweet spot for you?
So I actually do a little bit of both first home buyers and investors, because first home buyers are really struggling in today's market. There's so many markets that are really, really on fire at the moment, and they're just struggling to get in. So I help a lot there. And then with investors, finding that sweet spot where they're not going to be struggling with capital growth and cash flow as well, and then guiding them through that process to find a property manager that we can both trust, that they don't have to, feel like they have to go to the property every day and have a look at.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And I think that's great that you also cover that first home buyer market, because this is part of why I wanted, to bring you in today, is to break down like this stress that not only first home buyers, downsizers, but even investors go through when they're going it alone. So we're going to have some really practical tips for our listeners today, and Kelly's going to share her knowledge on how we can stay calm through the eye of a storm that is property buying. And like I said earlier, you've got such a calm and grounded brand, and that's what really struck me when we met. I was like, God, I have her on the show, because you're not flogging hype. You're, helping people like actually breathe and enjoy the process, which I think is a rare balance that you can strike in property. So let's talk about why everyone is so wrecked through this journey. What's the biggest, or what are the biggest emotional traps that you kind of see, whether it's buyers, investors, or owner-occupiers falling into?
Yeah, so they do generally fall into the same sort of categories, but a little bit different.
Yeah,
there's a little bit to it. So the first one I see with first home buyers in particular is planning for your whole life. You're going to buy this house that you are going to live in forever. And the chances of that happening are slim to none.
It's so true.
Yeah, so a lot of first home buyers do it. And I mean, it is the first time you're buying. A lot of them are younger. And that's just what you think. And to be honest, even as our parents and grandparents, that's kind of what they did.
Yeah, that's true.
But it really depends on where you are in life. Not only that, but also how much you can afford. So you may want to upgrade, which is what a lot of people are doing these days. So a lot of people want that
first home traditional
to be everything. And yeah, it just doesn't happen like that a lot of the times. Even myself, I built this big, amazing home. I thought I'd be there forever. 3 years.
3
years.
You know what's funny? I was the same. We built, like my partner and I built our own home when like this after we got together.
Yep.
And now we're 3 years in and we're talking about like, so what's the next house?
Yes.
What the hell? It's like we thought, no, this is going to be in the family for generations.
Yep. And yeah, so we lived in there for 3 years, moved state, not just around the corner. We moved state. And then after 2 years, we sold it. So we don't even have it anymore. We'd earn a lot of capital growth. And so I was like, let's do some more with that.
And do you find now like because there's a mindset shift, right? Like with that, if we look at our grandparents or our parents, they very much at that time in the market, wages were keeping up with, the cost of living, cost of like everything. There was challenges, of course, but it was much more balanced in terms of what you earned versus what you could afford. So buying that kind of better first home was possible, and then they're staying in them. Whereas I'm kind of seeing this shift of the mentality has to change around starter homes. It's like this is starter home.
Yep.
You're going to have it for maybe 3 to 4 years before you want to go and upgrade to your, 4-bed, 2-bath, 3-car, whatever it is.
100%.
So you're saying the same kind of thing.
Exactly right. Especially if you want to get into the market. There's a lot of, talk about not being able to get in. Challenge that and say, can you not get in, or can you not get in because you're thinking you want this huge big house forever, rather than something that is actually going to suit you now, and then we can work towards that, whether that is through capital growth or something like that, but getting into the market so you have something that's yours.
I love the way you put that, because now you kind of with your clients, that's what you're trying to kind of guide them on. So there's this really big, I guess, expectations that you have to talk about at the start with everyone to kind of go, are we only upset that we're not buying because you need to buy where you're renting and you can't afford it, or buying where your parents live and you absolutely need to live in a house, not a unit or an apartment or a townhouse?
Yeah.
Is that what you're kind of finding the challenge of, like, trying to get people to go through those motions and, like, open up their mind to maybe you could live 20, 30 kilometres further away and still have everything you need?
Very much so. And also the fact that prices are moving, and they're moving so quickly that people are having to make those decisions quicker.
That's true.
They're being priced out of where they wanted to go.
Gosh, it's such a tough market at the moment, because you're dealing, like, mostly in Mackay, but where else do you serve? Where else, are there any other markets that you typically touch?
Yeah, so I've been in Victoria as well, sort of regional Vic, and in Perth as well.
Oh, nice. Yeah. You're kind of seeing a whole landscape here of different markets.
Very much so.
Which one would you say is the toughest at the moment for competition?
Definitely Victoria. Definitely toughest for competition. Perth giving run for your money as well, though.
Right.
Mackay was really, really tough the beginning of this year. It slowed down a little bit, but I think that's mainly due to stock. We just don't have the stock anymore up there. So people are going to where there's actually homes to buy.
It's like, yep, got to move on.
Exactly right. It's especially investors. But yeah, like the homeowners in Mackay, there's still so many around, and just not
budging
enough.
Jeez, it's interesting, isn't it? Because outside of, like, that first emotional trap that you mentioned is, like, that expectation, are there any others that you kind of notice for investors in this, like, part when they're trying to find a home to buy?
Yeah, I think the biggest one is FOMO, fear of missing out. In those hot markets, if you've got a budget and you don't stick to it because you're scared of missing out, you're blowing that out, and then that obviously, has a flow-on effect as well. The other one is comparisons, and that can be investors or first home buyers. With investors, are you comparing to your friend that's already got 2, 3, 4, 5 properties, or even just one? I have to get in now. And then you've got, a bit of comparison and FOMO then. And then with your first home buyers, it's, I need to get in now, the market is moving. I just need to do it. I need to get whatever I can. Yeah. So yeah, there's a bit of both there.
So I think you've hit the real points that we see, because it's such a mind game that I think people really discount. Like, they don't really think about it as, no, there's no real emotion. Like, yes, it's my first home, I'm excited and all of that. But then when they start going through the motions by themselves, they miss out on offers, they miss out on auctions. Stock seems very limited, they're getting outpriced. It starts to become really overwhelming, really deflating, and very quickly you start to have this mindset of, this is never going to happen. And I think that's the beauty of working with someone like yourself, where sometimes you just need to be asked the questions, like, why are we looking to buy here? And then that opens up this question. It's like, okay, so what if I found you something 15 kilometres away in your budget? Are you going to say no? Oh, no. Then you're not just here. You're over here, and you're also there, you're also there. So do you find that happens a lot?
Yeah, for sure. And it's one reason that I make sure I get the brief tight at the beginning, because the more detailed you can be in that brief at the beginning, the easier the whole journey is going to be.
Yeah, that's true.
And I'm not saying you need to be, really strict with that. There still has to be some flexibility, but it's about, where do we have that flexibility? Is it in the number of bedrooms, or is it in that you need a shed, or is it that the shed is really, we need a shed? But the flexibility could be, does it already have a shed, or can we just have space to put that shed? They're the sort of things that I go through with my clients, so I know exactly where and what I'm looking for.
So it's kind of like those trade-offs. It's like, you found a house that, like, it's very hard to find a house that ticks every single box. And I think sometimes we, and we're all human. We all do it, right? We want the house that ticks every box.
Exactly.
And we need to compare it to, I think a lot of people also compare to what their friends are doing. Like I find that there's a kind of point of time in your 20s where you're about 25-ish these days, maybe a little bit older, and all your friends either start getting married, start having kids, and then they start buying houses. And then when you're now in this rush to just keep up, you're not really thinking about, well, do I want this? Do I want a mortgage commitment? Do I want to be bothered? You're kind of looking at everyone else moving and you're like, we need to move. It's like, but you may not need to.
Exactly.
Yet. You may need to save a little bit longer. And I think that comparison can really, like you said, it's all about that comparison. That's another one, that competition between your friends, your family, and what everyone else did 10 years ago. And you're like, I've got to do it now.
For sure. And the thing is, you don't know what their goals are, actual goals or personal goals or career goals. Comparison, it doesn't help.
Do you find it can kill deals as well?
100%. Yeah. Because if you're, if one of those things that you really want in a house is not because you're actually going to use it, but it's because your friend has it and you think it looks cool.
That's a big one.
Yeah. Yeah. Like up in Mackay, some people have boats, some people don't. I think boats look cool. And, every now and again I might go out on a boat. I don't want a boat. I don't want to maintain a boat. I don't want to have to store it. Yep. But, those sorts of things, we have a saying up there called driveway envy. So you don't even have to go into a home. You can see all of the things that are, in the driveway, and that comparison creeps in, and it can creep in really easy if you're not paying attention.
No, this is the mental game. Like, this is exactly what, is so important to unpack first. I think that's the hardest battle for a lot of not only investors but buyers, to get through that expectation that society or that, your parents or your family members have set for you, or what your friends are doing and everyone else is doing. It's like the focus is very hard to keep on just you.
Yes.
So,
it is.
And, it's another thing, right? So I think there's a cycle that kind of happens when, like, I'll paint the scenario for our listeners, as a buyer, and a lot of you are probably sitting here going, yes, this is me, but I'm not going to admit it. But no, but, there's this cycle that everyone goes through where you go to a few opens, you make a few offers, you start losing, and we were kind of talking about this. But then there's this hope at the end of the disappointment that you go, maybe the next house will do it. Maybe the next house will do it. And you kind of end up in this cycle of the next house. And all of a sudden, it's been 6 to 9 months that you've been on market going through this just the next house cycle. How do you spot when a client is like hitting burnout, like yourself personally? Do you ever experience that with clients, or are you getting them when they've already hit burnout and they're like, help me?
So no, it's really before that burnout. When you go to a home with somebody and they are, looking at things, and you can really just sense that they're dropping the guard, or they're losing focus of their brief because of the way they're moving through the property. You feel like the flatness, I guess.
It's like a vibe.
Exactly right. Yeah, they just feel flat. They've had enough. They don't want to be doing it anymore, but they also, whether it's living with their parents or, living in a rental, they don't want to be doing that anymore. Yeah. So once you notice that, we do just have to have a sit down and go over the brief again. And sometimes that brief may change a little bit, because some things that they did think that they, were 100% set on, maybe they realize now that it's not within their budget, because we've looked at a few homes and they know exactly now what they are going to get within that budget. So some things may, shift is a great word. Some things may shift, but it's about catching that and really sitting down and knowing and working through everything and understanding that goal again, making sure that we're all aligned on that goal of what they want from this property.
And I think that that's a great thing that, you bring to the table, right? Like, as the professional, like, you're spotting exactly what you see day in, day out, because I always say buyers advocates don't buy a property a year or a property every 5 years like average people. We're buying properties sometimes daily, monthly, weekly, like we're always working on some sort of deal every month, like, 12 months in a year, we're doing something in that month, we're buying something, or we're helping someone get rid of something and then helping them buy the next thing. So the amount of stuff that you see in market, it's not just like, oh, this specific person, you're the only person. It's kind of like a thing that you see that's common across all buying parties. It's like don't feel bad, what I'm trying to get at to our listeners, that if you're sitting here going, but it's like, you're not alone. Everyone's going through this cycle, but we need to get ahead of it. So we've kind of like, unpacked that problem. When you start sitting down with them, like, how do you kind of pull them back from that edge to kind of give them that confidence again, or re-inspire them and say, look, listen, not all hope's lost. Here's how we can plan around a strategy. And I know that probably changes client to client, but if you have an example.
Yeah, it does. And it, again, like I said, it's really about going back to that goal, the goal and the brief. The goal, what do you want out of this property? And if it is a first home buyer, it might be, we're just going to plan for, the next 3 to 5 years. That's all we need. What are we going to get within this budget? You have now seen what is, available, because sometimes it is hard to know when, like you said, we're in the property market day in, day out. We know, but sometimes people need to see it before they believe it, which I completely understand too.
Oh, I get that.
Yeah.
I'm very much like, nope, prove me wrong.
Exactly right. Exactly right. And investors are the same. Sometimes, and what we could buy in regional Vic versus regional Queensland.
So different.
So different. So you really need to know what your goal is and what you want out of this property. So yeah, as a first home buyer, we want it for at least 3 to 5 years. If it's an investor, in that 3 to 5 years, we want to extract equity out of that. So it's really about coming back to that and then aligning with what we have seen on the market, what we can actually get to those goals, because the goal is why we're buying property.
Yeah, and it makes sense. And how often do you see, like with your owner-occupier buyers, that because we're talking about starter homes, right? This is kind of like the shift I want to catch is, if we're shifting mindset to starter homes, do you start to kind of take them through a little bit a little bit of the criteria that you would do with investors? So it's like, okay, 3 to 5 years, almost treat this like an investment rather than your forever home. And do you have to have that conversation with them to kind of swing them around to that side of things to say, look at this differently?
Yes, I actually do it with both.
Right.
They're people buying their own home. I give them a briefing sheet. They have to fill it out. And if it's, whether it's a couple, a brother and a sister, cousins, whoever's buying it together, they have to do one separately. And then we'll come together and we'll put them together and work out, what aligns, what doesn't align, and how we can get it aligned. And then like you said, have that conversation around the goals of what we're trying to get out of this. And if it's a couple, generally it's going to be the same sort of thing. With siblings, it can be a little bit different.
Yeah, true.
But then with investors, it's a similar conversation. What do you want out of this property? What do you need out of this property? And also having a chat to them. Yes, it is a business. Yes, there are still going to be some emotions flying because it's a lot of money, but also we want to buy a home that an owner wants to live in.
Yeah, that's true too.
So there is quite a lot of crossover. I think a lot of people have them quite separate, but I find there is quite a lot of crossover between the two.
I think that's what makes it a powerful thing, though, that you're asking these questions or unpacking it in that way, because even those comparisons between a couple's profile that sometimes can be vastly different depending on their personality, right? Like you could be aligned on bedrooms, bathrooms and a location potentially, but then your reason for buying is completely different. And that's where you probably see a lot of discrepancy. So it's good that you actually separate them and then bring it together and go, let's get aligned.
Yeah, 100%. I had a couple once. They had the same goal.
Yeah.
But how they were going to get there was very different. So
interesting.
She was sending me homes that were worth $750. He was sending me homes that were worth $350. A little bit of a difference there.
Like, someone's going to live in a backyard. Someone's going to live in the mansion.
Exactly right. Exactly right. And it was all about, he wanted to do some work, wanted to save the money, do some renos and everything. She was like, he's not going to do them, or he's not going to do them quick enough.
Yeah, so she's worried that it's not going to happen. It's like, you've got the ambition, I get it, you're not going to do it.
Exactly right. So we really had to find that middle ground that everyone was going to be happy. He was still okay with, spending a certain amount of money, and there were still things for him to fix and do. And she was still happy as it stood at the moment.
Yeah.
Obviously wanting those renovations as well, but can wait.
Yeah. So I wonder, fast forward to now, I wonder if he is doing those renos or if he did them.
Yeah, I have reached out. I think a couple of little things have been done, but yeah.
Good on him.
Yeah.
No, that's inspiring. I'm glad. And, this isn't just a market problem, right? This is a mental problem more than anything, as I keep saying. And I'm just really trying to get that message through to our listeners, because this is something that if you can overcome it or open up your mind, the possibilities then become not as limiting and it becomes less, like you said, it's like that I want to say disabled, but it's the wrong word. Like, it can feel like sometimes you're numb to it. Like you get to a point where you just don't know.
Yes.
And it's like this side of things, if you can navigate it either yourself or through an advocate, you're going to have a much better journey.
Yes.
Just keeping open-minded. And do you find they're the easiest buyers to kind of work with when they're like, I don't care, just tell me what to do?
Oh, 100%. 100%. Yeah, they are literally there to take your advice. And I would encourage people to listen and take in, the things that you can. Obviously, there are things that you're not going to want to change, and that is completely fine. But you need to keep some sort of open mind. And like you were saying, with the mental load, I think a lot of people, they, I guess, set aside some of their mental capacity for everything you need to get done for the bank, which is
Oh, that's a lot of shit.
it's a lot of stuff. You've got that. And then you've got in your head, I'm going to have to do negotiation. I'm going to have to deal with however many real estate agents. And they all work very differently. They all have different personalities.
Yep.
So you set aside all of that, that mental load to work through all of that. But I think some people forget that you need to save some for what you actually want and really getting to the bottom of what everyone wants and
executing
the goals. Exactly right.
Yeah, and that's, I think you said it well, that capacity. So set aside some of that capacity because, the finance side is pretty heavy,
It's huge.
with the documents and the pre-approvals and the anxiousness of waiting for an approval.
Yeah.
And I've always said to clients, like, get your finance sorted before you even look at property. I always say property is the reward for everything you've done to prepare for the moment that you can finally inspect a house. So I think the mistake that a lot of buyers make is they go to inspections first, they fall in love, and then they do everything ass backwards, and then it's stressful, disheartening, and a lot of people just go off market, for months and go, don't worry about it.
Yep, exactly right. And the other benefit of going in with finance first, you're not looking at those $700,000 houses when you've only got a $500,000 budget.
Correct.
Because that in itself is really deflating.
Oh, it's damaging.
Yes.
Because if you've been browsing on realestate.com at $700,000 homes, you now have fallen in love with a concept and a structure of a house that's maybe a 3 to 4 bed, 2 bath, 2 car, and maybe it's on 400 to 500 land size, depending on where you're buying, if you can buy that. And then when you drop your price bracket down to the reality of like a 500,000, we're not looking at the same thing anymore.
It hurts.
And it does. It's like, well, I'm just going to keep saving and wait for the market.
Yep.
I hate that, the waiting for the market. If you can tell me when it's going to blast off, let me know. I'll buy everything.
Exactly right. Yeah.
It's like we don't even know, but we see patterns. We can kind of see trends happening, but I always go back to no one predicted COVID. We all thought it was a market shutdown, and that did not happen.
No, it did not.
That was a wild market. And I want you to walk me through your framework. So I know, we've talked a lot about, how you kind of help people stay on track and clear-headed. But, I think there's a couple of things here, like what is the kind of, you take their brief, right? So let's say we'll walk through your process. You've taken their brief, they understand, goals, we're all aligned, and then you start your process of finding properties. Is that generally like, walk us through your steps, I guess, of what buyers can expect when they work with you?
Yeah, so I guess that's where it's going to differ there after that brief, whether you're buying your own home or you're an investor. So if you're buying your own home, that's when we can look at the areas of the region that you are happy with. So like, for example, a lot of people in Mackay will either work out on the farms or they'll work out in mining.
Yep.
And some people, they do some big shifts out there. They don't want to be driving the extra 20 minutes to get to the northern beaches. So those sorts of things, we really need to set in stone the suburbs that you're going to be happy with. On the flip side of that, with investors, we do the suburb analysis then as well, but that's where we open it right up.
Yeah, it's like Australia.
Exactly right.
Yep.
And we bring in, do you need mostly cash flow? Do you need mostly capital growth? Like that, it's really going to depend on what you're looking for from that brief, which is why it's really important to get that done straight away, because that's going to dictate where we can go within the markets within Australia.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, once we've picked one, and I will generally give 3. I don't like giving any more than that because decision paralysis,
huge.
It is huge. And that is one of the reasons that you, in any capacity, hire a professional so you don't have to deal with that. So I would generally stick to 3.
Yep.
Once we have within that 3, a lot of the times they can be very similar numbers wise.
Yep.
So we may potentially look for property in all of them, or we may just pick a top 2, or you may just go, no, I like that one better.
Yep.
We're just going with that one. So yeah, we do that all before we even start looking at actual properties.
Like, and this, I hope this is giving you guys tuning in today insight into the process. Like before, we haven't even looked at a house yet.
Nope.
Haven't
Stay
even,
off realestate.com.
it's such a taboo thing at this moment. It's like, don't do it. You're going to get disappointed.
Yes. Yeah. Because you don't know where to look. You don't know, the price point if you haven't been to a broker yet. There's so many different steps that need to happen before you effectively go into that property search.
I agree. So then at what point, so once your kind of buyers have picked those suburbs or said to you, I'm pretty comfortable, let's look in these 2, right?
Yep.
Is that when you start kind of then doing the property level analysis, and then that's when you would shortlist to go to inspections?
Yes, 100%.
Yeah.
So yeah, then we would get, and that's when you can start looking on real estate.
Permission granted.
Permission granted. You can start looking for the actual property.
Mm.
So you can look at the properties. However, don't go to a property yet.
Yep.
We're still not walking across that threshold of any properties yet, because there is still a number of different checks that you need to do. One big one, especially in Central Queensland, insurance.
Yep.
The difference between insurance, some pockets you're looking at $2,500 a year, others it's $8,000.
Yep.
$8,000, I'm not even going to keep doing any more research on those, because that cash flow wise, first of all, is crazy. But even if you're a home buyer, you're buying your own home, the insurance companies have no faith in that property.
Yep.
And what could potentially happen. It's cyclone territory.
Right. Yeah, that's
so,
right.
I don't go near those. So that's a really big one that I concentrate on. But, street level analysis as well. So, the social housing that's around, what schools are in the area. If you have kids, some schools are higher ranked. Is that something that is important to you, or is it you don't really worry about it? You're going to a private school or you're going to homeschool. Those are the types of things, again, that goes right back to the brief. Because then I know I can cross that off, or I can put that in there. Let's look further into this right there. I don't have to call you and go, hang on, I didn't check on your schooling.
That's right.
Yeah, going back to that brief, that's why it's really important. So I'll go through all of those things, and then I'll come to you again with, say, 3 properties that we're going to actually go and have a look.
I think that, the fact that you go with 3, I used to do the same. I feel like when you get too many options, that's where you get the analysis paralysis, like you said earlier, the decision paralysis. And I'm like, 100%.
Yep.
And insurance, I worked in insurance for a time.
Yeah.
I can vouch for the insurance cost in Queensland. We used to get a lot of claims come through. With policies, we used to write at 10,000, 8,000, 12,000, depending on the region. Yeah, insurance companies do not have faith. Some of them won't even cover you for flood cover, just because of where you live. So it's no matter what, even if you want to pay a premium to get flood added on top of your policy, it's not worth it. So I love that you've thought of insurance, because I think sometimes that is an afterthought. It's you do all this property research, all the numbers line up, and then you find out, oh, by the way, your policy is going to be 10 grand. Thanks so much.
Exactly. And that as an
deal killer.
Exactly right. Obviously, as a homeowner, you have to find that cash. But then when you're an investor, that the cash flow hit that you are taking,
it's just not worth it.
It is not worth it then. You might be maybe sort of neutrally geared, maybe if you're lucky. Not after that.
Not after that, no way. Especially if you were projected to earn, 10, 12 grand a year off that property. Well, there's your policy paid.
Yeah, exactly right.
You've paid for insurance. Well done.
Yes.
That's not fun.
No, it's not at all.
It's so, I love this conversation. I guess, have you ever had to talk a client out of buying something just because they were done, they wanted to end the search? They're like, Kelly, you've shown me a few things, I'm over it, just buy this?
Not because they were done, because it didn't hit their goals.
Okay.
So I had a client and they wanted to buy, this home was beautiful, beachfront, really beautifully renovated. It was immaculate. It was so beautiful. One of the couple was really nervous about spending that much money on it. And so we had to go back and, discuss, what did you want out of this property? And they would have had to have stayed there forever. And that was never in their goal. And financially, what they would have outlaid for that property, they potentially would not have been able to, get any more investment properties to build that financial stability that they also wanted. So as beautiful as that home was, and every time it comes up, it is immaculate, we had to say no.
Wow. That's tough.
Yeah.
I think that's a really, really hard one to get through because we're, you're emotionally invested. When you see a beachfront, beautiful home, it's so hard to give that up.
Yeah.
So kudos to you and like those clients for like actually heeding, your guidance there. Like, because at the end of the day, what I think, you guys have to understand is that Kelly's not there to tell you, no, you can't buy that. She's just there to remind you that you said you wanted to do these things. This property's not going to do that.
Yeah.
So are we still aligned on the goal, or are we, and the property is incorrect, or is the property correct and the goal's wrong?
Yeah.
So I think that's the key here. It's,
100%.
What are we doing?
Yes, exactly right. It's all about going back to your
The
goals
reminder.
and exactly right. Making sure that this is going to fit what you wanted, why you came to me for.
Yeah, exactly. And, that I think that's the mark of good advice, like protecting people from themselves.
Yes.
Right? Because I think we're our own worst enemy a lot of the time.
100%.
Not in a mean way. And, I want to talk like a little bit of a different gear, like staying grounded when the market's tough, right? Because no matter where you're buying, whether it's Mackay or elsewhere, the competition's intense. How do you help clients stay calm and confident when it feels like every property is just running from their hands? It's like slipping away.
Yeah. So again, it all comes back to that brief. You need to get the brief right, and everyone needs to be aligned on the brief and the goal.
So if you just keep repeating like that, kind of like, cool, yeah, that's fine. Here's your brief.
Exactly right. We are here to get to this goal, and we are going to get there.
Yeah.
And, just having those conversations, that one wasn't the right property for you, and that's okay. It will come up, and we have this goal. We're going to achieve it.
And do you find clients like when you're just kind of saying, don't stress, it's happened, move on, we've got the next one, we're going to get there, that they kind of get that reassurance from you and go, okay, yeah, you're right.
Yeah, for sure. Sometimes you do just need to, get those anxieties out, just get it out in the world, and then you can come back to the job at hand.
Yep, it's like just come back down to earth. It's okay.
Yep.
Because when you're doing this by yourself, and a lot of you listening probably are sitting there going, yep, I've taken off into a different planet because I'm really upset.
Yep.
And I've been there. We've all been there, like even us professionals when we're buying our own properties. We have to do a lot of mental work. Like I actually, I go to I've got buyer's agents in my network that I just go, listen, I'm buying and you're going to do it because I know what I'll do. I'm going to try and coach myself, and it's going to be hard. So even as professionals, we find it hard.
Very hard. I only said no to one the other day. I'd paid the deposit.
Wow.
And then I realized that I had done that as well. I let my emotions take over, and I was like, no, I can't do that. I can't do that. That was a bad buy.
That's good on you.
Yeah.
See, this is the discipline we're talking about.
Yeah.
It's hard for us.
Yes, very hard.
And we've got training, we've got skill, we've got that whole, like we do it all the time. We're still not safe from our own emotions because it's very hard when you see something that ticks your boxes. It's like your light bulbs all go off and you're like, no, shut up. We hate it.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, but my dog would love it.
Exactly. Oh, but this, but that. Yeah. No, it's not going to align. But I got to the point to pay, that
deposit.
I'm like, no, I can't do that. That's not.
Good on you. Yeah. That is mental strength. Like I'm just imagining like some ripped biceps right now. Like, no, good job. I'm going to, I guess one of the things that I love to do on this show, it is a fan favorite. It's our Reddit segment. Okay, so what we do is every week when we have a guest on, we like to, get your take on a story that we hear on Reddit. And this is something that's common and topical to this conversation. So I'll read out a post that one of our listeners sent in. So we get a lot of you guys that send these in to us and say, can you unpack this? What would they do? So we're just going to see, what would Kelly do with this situation? How can we help? So you ready to have a go?
Yep.
Okay. So this one was sent in by you guys, and it's titled here, Buying a Family Home Becoming Unobtainable. So if you're watching on YouTube, you can see it on the screen below. It says, my partner and I have decent incomes, and we've been saving for years. But every time we get close to our goal, prices jump again. We've been outbid so many times, it's soul destroying. I'm starting to think we'll never be able to buy a home big enough for our kids. How are people affording to do this? It feels like a dream slipping away. That's a hard one.
It is very hard and so common.
Yeah, there you go. So common.
So common.
So I guess what's your response to someone feeling like this?
Not cry with them, but you kind of want to. We let them get it out because it does suck. Is the markets are moving so quickly, it does feel like it's unattainable.
Yeah.
The key thing there was for my kids.
Yeah.
Do you have kids now? Do you need something that is going to suit you for the next 20 years? Or can you find something now that is going to suit you for 5 years and then we can upgrade? You may have some equity that you can then use to go and get that home that's going to suit your next stage of life. So it's really about finding what you need now, and do you need that within 5 years or do you need it in 25 years?
Right. I think that's a really key thing, because even for us, like building our house, I think back on it. And I remember at the time, because we built, it was so frustrating. And I'm like, I'm thinking of like future kids. I'm like, we don't even have kids yet. We still haven't had kids. I've been there for 3 years. But, you know, we got 4 bedrooms, so we're ready to go. We occupy 1. Why did we go so hard? But it's like, I guess we're prepared now, and now we're talking about selling it. It's like just so dumb. It's like this is part of like the goals at the start.
Exactly right. And it's really hard though. On the flip side of that, when I built my home, I built it for what I needed and what I thought I was going to need. It was within a year. I started a business. I didn't put an office in there. I had filled that. I was a 4-bedroom home. I had 3 kids.
They're done.
They were all full. I had no office space. So, and I never thought I would have a business. In the last few years of my life, I've clearly changed a lot, but I never predicted that. And the thing is, you cannot predict everything that is going to happen to you. So yes, you might think, or you might want to, you know, have enough bedrooms for kids. That's sort of a little bit different, but you cannot predict everything that is going to happen and how you are going to use your home.
No, and I think with this story here, what really kind of stood out to me is that same thing we talked about at the start, the mindset shift between starter home and that, you know, forever home, first home kind of brand that everyone's chasing. Because once your first home, you want to show it off. But if you just buy this little unit, you know, maybe consciously you might feel ashamed of that, but you still bought a home. It's nothing to be ashamed of. Like, you've got a longer term goal. And I'm telling you now, you're going to be in a better position than 90% of other first home buyers who did do the big build at the start or the big purchase from day one, have a huge mortgage and now can't move.
Right. And if you are in the market for a long time and it does keep pushing away, buy what you can afford now. And then you've already taken that first goal to whether it is more wealth creation or that bigger home, because you're already in the market. Getting into the market is the hardest thing to do. Get in where you can, where it's going to work for you, and go from there.
And once you're in, you're in.
Exactly.
You're in the game, you're gaining equity. It's not the same where the first time you do have to have deposit. You do have to have savings. The government is helping 100%. But once you've got property, then you watch it grow, you get equity. There's options. It's like, okay, now we can buy a house, another investment with the equity we have in that property. You haven't had to set aside your savings. Your savings then become your actual buffer for life.
Yes.
So you're just buying with equity going, cool, now that I've done that first one, that's in the bag. And what I've kind of realized with investors is everyone says that they're the rich kind of stereotype, but what they're doing is just shuffling money around.
100%.
It's just...
It's a light bulb moment. I remember when I figured that out. Yeah, huge.
Because it's different. Like, you're thinking, damn, like 5 properties in your portfolio. It's like, they're just moving money. It's cash flow in and out. It's like, cool. So I have 20K coming in here, but then now I've got to send 18 of it out the door, but that property is going to bring in 5 this week. So when you start to realize that this is just shuffling back and forth, and this is why you have accountants that work with buyers advocates like Kelly, this is how the teams work together. It's like, what's the next investment? What can they afford? They've got this much equity, go buy it here. So I think it's a huge light bulb moment, like you said, when I worked that out. Because I did mainly owner occupiers. I did a couple of investors, but it wasn't for me. I really liked the owner occ space. That's why I resonate so much with how you talk. I'm like, yes. And I was like, but when I started seeing the investment side, I'm like, oh, yeah, okay, I get it. It's like, you're not loaded. Like, if you sold everything today, maybe, 100%, you'd have a lot of money in your pocket and you've settled while you're in the thick of it. No, you're just shuffling around.
Right, especially that accumulation phase when you trying to get all of those properties under your belt.
Yep.
the cash flow isn't as great.
Oh,
But then you have to sit on them and, work it, wait for it to grow. Yeah, it's funny when you realize that those people aren't, they don't have that much money in their bank account.
no.
They've got it stored in assets.
Correct. It's like it's all hidden in the portfolio.
Yes.
It's like if you see the portfolio, yep, you'll know where their money is. Bank account's got $35, but
Yeah.
hey, on paper, I'm like a billionaire.
And again, I think that's a mindset shift
100%.
to know that, yes, you may be, you may only have $30 in your account,
Yeah.
but you have assets behind you that are growing for you, and, you can reach your financial goals because you've gotten into that market.
Correct. Like it's all about that good debt versus bad debt.
Exactly.
It's like, having afterpay is bad debt.
It's fun, but not good.
Definitely fun, dangerous and fun.
Very much so.
But then, property is that, that debt that kind of grows into something and it's different to a car again. Cars having that value decrease unless you're buying something to do up that goes up in value. Like I know my uncle does up Land Rovers, right? So he bought a Land Rover, bought all the parts, he spent a bit of money, but then the car's worth nearly $100,000. So it's like, where do you spend it? How do you spend it is the key there, I think. But
exactly.
Thank you for tackling that one. And thank you to our listener for sending that one in. And before we wrap up, I have to just do a quick rapid fire with you because I think it's fun. This is a new little segment I came up with this week because I was like, I just want to have a bit more fun.
Yeah.
We talk about it such a dense topics. I want to call out a few things here. I want you to see if call out if it's a red flag or if it's a reset moment.
Okay.
The round is red flag or reset. I'm going to throw some classic burnout behaviors at you. And you tell me if it's a red flag or if it needs to stop, like a reset moment where the buyer can recover. It's like you've got an opportunity. All right, you ready to have a go?
I'm ready.
Okay. First one, scrolling listings at 2 a.m.
That's a reset.
Okay. I agree, actually.
Yeah.
So they have to reset here?
Yes, because real estates aren't listing those properties at 1 a.m. You can look before you go to bed. I don't recommend it, but you still can. And when you first get up, again, don't recommend it, but you still can. When it's keeping you up at night, you need to stop that behavior. But we can reset it. We can do it in the waking hours of the day.
That's it. So you've got to reset, guys. Like
exactly.
after dinner, maybe.
Yes.
Let's negotiate.
Yes, exactly. You've got a time frame. That's the only time you're allowed online.
I love it. The next one, going to every open house just in case.
Oh, no, that's a red flag.
Why?
Because paralysis, FOMO, all of those things will come into play. You cannot do that. You need to stop. You need to stop.
This is your reminder.
Yes, that is scrolling listings is one thing, but actually going to the properties, because you can fall in love with something and be blinded to everything else. You can be blinded to the advice you're going to receive. You can be blinded to the beautiful vase that was in the entry and you just loved it. There's so many things. Red flag.
Red flag, I agree. Number 3, raising the budget every fortnight.
Yeah, red flag. You can't do that. You need to stop. I guess maybe a reset.
It's a bit of both.
It is.
At what point do you stop?
Yeah.
It's like before your broker says, what are you doing?
Exactly right. Yes. Because again, it comes back to your goals.
Yeah.
If you're an investor, you need to be really mindful of what you're going to buy. Are you going to be able to buy the next one if that's your goal? Because you've blown out the budget on this one.
Yeah.
Do you have a budget for 2, but you see one that
supersedes that?
Exactly right. So yeah, that's not great. And then if you're a homeowner, do you want to be spending all of your money? You're eating 2-minute noodles every night because you've blown your budget on, or you're sitting on camp chairs because you couldn't buy the lounge you really wanted.
Oh my God.
It's all about balance.
It's like, got to think about that.
Yes, exactly.
I like it. This next one, fighting with your partner mid-auction.
Red flag. Major red flag. We don't have a lot of auctions in Central Queensland.
You're lucky.
If I was to go to an auction here, I would not go with my client.
Yeah.
I would not take them because the agents know what they're doing and they can see very easily where you're at and where your clients are at. You do not want to show that mid-auction especially. No. It's hard enough, walking through the property trying to, compose yourself, but mid-auction, not good at all.
No, I agree. Yeah, having a big fight. It's probably showing all your cards.
100%.
And if anything, the agent being, because they're all always up and about when the auctioneer's there, you don't want them calling you out. That'll just fire everyone up. I feel like you just shut up. And the last one here is buying because we've waited long enough.
that's a reset. You need to go back to that brief. You need to go back to your goals. We can still find you something that is going to match those. But just buying and forgetting all of that, you don't want to be resentful of what you've done or, that property when you're living in it because it doesn't have that shed out the back. Or,
True.
You can't get, that bit of distance that we all need sometimes from it. You don't have that because you had FOMO and you've just jumped into whatever you could. You want to minimize that, so you need to go back to the goals and your brief.
I love it. Thank you for playing that game with me. I feel like this has been the real estate therapy session that we all needed, and especially at the busiest time of the market. Kelly, thank you so much for joining us. This has been, like I said, like a property therapy session for the nations. Thank you so much for coming on the show and for flying all the way down here.
No worries at all. I've had a great time. Thanks for having me.
Of course. And what I wanted to wrap up with, guys, today, what did we learn? So buying a home is stressful, but it doesn't have to break you. Preparation will always beat panic and boundaries beat burnout. So be really clear. And don't forget that the right advocate doesn't just find you a house. They actually help you survive the journey. And that's why I've dubbed Kelly the real estate therapist or the real estate psychologist. So as I always say, it's free to have a chat. Give Kelly a call. We've dropped her details in the show notes below. It's not going to cost you anything to give her a buzz and say, hey, this is my position. How could we work together? And that consultation will maybe change your whole trajectory on the journey you've been on. So don't be afraid to pick up the phone. Have those conversations. You never know where it could lead. So Kelly, thank you again for being here today.
Thanks, Jo.
Of course. And until next time, guys, I'm Jo Agresta. This has been the No BS Real Estate Podcast. And thank you for listening with us and tuning in every single week and sending us your questions. We look forward to having you back on the show next time. See you then. That's a wrap for this episode of the No BS Real Estate Podcast, powered by Abodey AI. If you found this conversation helpful, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share this episode with someone who might need it. If you're looking for more guidance on your home buying journey, you can visit www.abodey.com.au for expert advice, property insights, and the tools you need to find the right home with confidence. If you're already on your journey, you can also download our app. Just search Abodey AI on the App Store or Google Play. Have any questions or want to connect, you can follow us on Instagram at abodey.com.au or send us a message. We'd love to hear from you. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch you in the next episode.